Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I have prepared another right out of testing video for you about the Type 4. That is the Tier 9 predecessor to the Type 5, which I previously reviewed in this, video series for you. The Type 4, much like the Type 5, features the 14 centimeter gun. It's very slow. In fact, it's slower than the Type 5. And, well, it's 4 times fatter than everything else on the battlefield. Now with introductions to the Type 4 aside, let's get into some games, shall we? So this particular match is the first one that I'd ever had in the Type 4. This comes after like half a dozen games in the Type 5, and we're on the Siegfried line in a standard match. And I've got some basic ideas on how this tank should be played at this point. I'm going to be looking for some nice narrow areas where I can control the engagements such that the enemies have limited opportunities at my side armor, which is significantly thinner than my front armor. I'm going to be trying to avoid giving them straight on shots at those angled cheeks on the front of the tank. And if possible, I'm going to be trying to side scrape in such a way that I am hiding the commander's cupola. Granted, this particular commander's cupola is very strong. You will see evidence of this a few games into this particular replay. Right now, with all of that in mind, I'm approaching the city portion of Siegfried Line with a particular area in mind that works fairly well in my E75 when I'm looking to side scrape the initial portion of the battle. And as we approach this alleyway here leading up to this point, I'm not expecting any issues, mainly because I've had good success with this area before. Not in this tank, but just this general area. So, lumber along, nice and sedate, at a pace that might make a mouse seem just a little bit fast, and I find myself in a fairly good position, right here at the corner of this building, occupying this crossroads. In front of us, we see a light tank. It looks like an enemy Type 4 heavy as well, and another medium in the background. I'm conscious of not going too far out to expose my side to the road running through the center of town. Take a good, carefully aimed shot into the cheek plate of the Type 4, because that was the best probability of a penetration firing at that angle. He, like myself, is trying to side scrape this particular crossroad, and making use of the long reload time on the Type 4, I pan out and spot an enemy E75, I believe, trying to compromise my position. So I pull back and attempt to get a shot on his lower plate through this area. However, you can fully aim the shot and donk it straight into a building parked right there. So, with that one ally that was really making that position tenable, now dead, I try to escape, and only to discover that 22 kilometers per hour top speed is not enough to get away from what appears to be a stock E75. Oh wait, no, maybe he's got the upgraded turret. And I get tracked out and slowly start losing health here. It's not a huge issue. The Type 4's got plenty of it. Carefully aim a shot straight into his commander's cupola. Now begin to angle out. Change the angle of attack on him constantly. He sends a shot straight into our tracks. That's good. It looks like maybe he was aiming for the weak spot bulges on the front plate of the Type 4. We get a second shot in on his commander's cupola. Manage to angle the tracks in time to have the tracks eat that shot. He comes around us, completely flanks, and We managed to penetrate the rear side armor of the vehicle, and I begin to back up, and I rush that shot. It ricochets off of his tank gun barrel and into the building. Keep trying to angle it, but I flattened out too much, or he loaded APCR, and that was it. Managed to penetrate the lower plate. Welcome to Sacred Valley. This is your Type 4 tour guide speaking, and right now it is a standard match on Sacred Valley, and well, we're in a heavy tank, so odds are we wouldn't try to go down the southern road anyway, but this is a Type 4. It's not going to climb that hill very well, so we're going to take the northern approach like a good heavy tank and slowly make our way. And I do emphasize slow. You are about to see a pack of E100s and a Jaegeru outpace this tank. And those are very, well, they're not slow vehicles anymore. The Japanese Tier 9 and Tier 10s now probably take the cake for the slowest vehicles in high tier matches. So we're going to have to be a little more creative than our original plan, which was to go up into those mountains and that upper road there around C2, C3 area. And it's about this time I'm looking ahead, trying to plan my next move. And I see that T-49, the enemy T-49 I mean, just got obliterated by our 50B. So I'm willing to bet that the enemy is not going to push that corner. So I'm going to seize the initiative and take the shorter road there when a very hostile Echo 4 decides to open fire, and we bounce the shot off the top of our turret. Great feeling there. I love the armor on this tank. I love that armor. And I think that's going to be a little more representative of the types of things you can expect on the live server, because if that had been premium ammunition out of that Echo 4, it would have sailed straight through the tank armor. I'm more than willing to bet. So get a good tracking shot in there on that Echo 4, and he doesn't last much longer. So during this point in the reload, I evaluate the situation of our allied vehicles and decide that it is time to begin a slow and somewhat thoughtful push forward. We outnumber them, the enemies I mean, on this flank. Looks like an enemy Type 5. So using the fairly nice penetration out of this gun with its standard ammunition, we put a good shot into that Type 5. Our allies addressed the immediate threat posed by that VK4502B, and now we begin to push around. And that's when disaster begins to strike, and the Conqueror gun carriage on the enemy team hits both those enemy vehicles. It looks like I get tracked by that Conway up there, and now we just sit back, repair the tracks, because I don't think I brought a repair kit this battle. Scrubbish me, right? So tracks are back up, we move forward, trying to collapse this pocket of resistance that is coalesced in the north. And right now you can see that the Type 4 is quite at home in Tier 10 matches, even ones that are quite heavily Tier 10 matches. So we just lost our VK4502B to the Conqueror gun carriage. This gun's still reloading, and I immediately waste the shot because I didn't have fast enough reflexes to tell my finger, don't pull that trigger. But right here you see the enemy 121, the Tier 10 Chinese medium tank, try to break out of that encirclement, and during his escape I kept the front plate pointed at him in hopes that even if he was firing his high explosive anti-tank rounds, there'd be a good probability that they would either ricochet off into the ground, or perhaps they might fail to penetrate. And yes, our Jaegeru just planted a huge ass shot into the rear of my turret, and let the great team killing games begin. So there's the enemy gun carriage, which has been giving us holy hell from the beginning of the match, and a moderately well-aimed shot finds its way into the side of his turret, and we end the match. Welcome to Standard Battle Lakeville Type 4 Edition. The general strategy here for the Type 4 is not that different than many other heavies in World of Tanks. You're going to be trying to head for the city as soon as possible, and this is because the Type 4 has really crummy cross-country resistances, and that entire valley is one giant bog for all I am concerned about in driving this tank. So I am no hurry to head there, and because of the relatively weak side armor, I dare not even ponder going the center road. Well, also the speed is a factor in that one too. And right now this should have been a giant red flag to me that we have a group of tier 10 mediums, when there are no light tanks, who are not going to contest the center of Lakeville's Lake Road there, and we'll just watch that friendly Death Star get blown up by another Death Star. Now I'm coming under fire because the Death Star is no longer acting as a meat shield, and we've been reduced to a little smidge over 700 health. Right at the beginning of the battle, I get such warm and fuzzy feelings when this happens. Another tip for using the Type 4, you're seeing that my turret is not really moving as I maneuver the tank. That is because I have locked the turret at a particular angle and am trying to keep it at that angle because I anticipate needing it in that direction more than in any other direction. And I do this by holding down the right mouse button, and that also allows me to pan and scan across the battlefield. And I release it just as those blips on the radar come up and 3 tier 10 mediums decide to infest our base. A moderately well-aimed shot manages to connect with that T-62A at just under 400 meters. I love .4 accuracy guns. They troll you as much as they troll the enemy. So now we see an enemy 121 just disappeared from sight. I didn't have enough confidence to take the shot on him in there. It looks like it connected. I didn't see any other shots go out towards him. So in all likelihood, that shell shaved off a quarter of his health, and he's no longer an issue because our tier 10 Conway tank destroyer managed to take him out. And I realized that the Conway in-game is tier 9, but for all intents and purposes, the FV4005 is a Conway. It's just got the bigger gun. That's it. It's easier to say Conway than FV4005. You try it. So right now, I'm looking at the situation with that M103, and as much as I want to help, I am limited by the fact that 1, this is a slow tank, and 2, it's got a very slow reload. So it doesn't really behoove me to plunge it straight into a pack of tier 10s. And oh god, is that a mouse? Yes, that is a mouse. I've got that butterfly feeling now, and I'm backing up. 700 health. I could take 2 shots. So I would have loved to have connected that shot, because then that enemy TD would have been no more, and our friendly tier 10 Conway could have easily spent that shell somewhere else. In all likelihood, the mouse would have been a good target, or perhaps the 5th DB that's soon to come around. Right now, I've brought the gun to bear on the mouse, and it looks like I planted the cursor a little bit too much to the right, and it only tracked him. I was kind of hoping to get his lower plate there. Even at that angle, this gun should be able to penetrate it. And, ooh, that had to hurt. That poor E50M. Ooh, wrong end of a 183mm gun. Ouch. Man, looking for the weak spot in the cheek on the left side of the mouse's turret. Not able to connect with that one. Take a hit and return. I'm backing up because I know that there's only one hit for both of their guns so long as RNGesus doesn't heat them and give them a low roll. So right now I'm calming the gun. I'm looking for a shot on the AMX if I can get it, but decide to pull backwards. It looks like the mouse whiffed that shot. I don't know where it went. There's the 50B. I put a shot straight through his turret ring. It rolls just a little high. I move forward and try to use the hull of my vehicle as a shield for the friendly tank destroyer. And let's just stick with him to see how this goes. I think you can see where this is going. He's at 1% health. Looks like maybe that house of a turret's gonna betray him, and yes it does. So now we're on Redshire, or Redshire. Please let me know which you prefer in the comments. So right now, yes, they've changed Redshire yet again. The river that once ran from the northeast through the center of the map and then off to the west now just makes pretty much a straight line going from the northeast straight to the south. Another change they've made, if you're looking at the mini-map, is they've revised that entire 1-2 line corridor that used to be a great long alleyway for tank destroyers with the bushes and the boulders scattered along it, and heavy tanks could make use of it. Now it looks more conducive to good medium tank play, and perhaps even fast heavies like the IS-7 could find a home in that particular environment due to the buildings. But the Type 4 Heavy is by no means a fast heavy tank, so I'm going to head to the other area that they revised around the 0 line and join our E50M and that friendly tank destroyer up there. It looks like an Object 268 for a little bit of support against the heavy tanks that are bound to show up there and slow tank destroyers. So right now you can see that our Object 268 is getting pummeled slowly but surely. That's indicative of the Porsche type German heavy tanks that we'll see appear very quickly. Right now, if it was me in that 268, I would have fallen back to behind this boulder and waited for backup to arrive, or to just hold them off until our Death Star to the direct south of us along the 0 line had gotten into position to put shots out, making use of that, well, island of a rock formation to cover the flank, and the moment they poke around, they get hit with that luscious BL-10 gun, I think it is, on the 268. Please let me know if that's not correct. I don't actually have that vehicle, so I don't remember the gun that's on it. So anyway, I'm sitting here trying to make use of the great gun depression on the Type 4, but the enemy doesn't seem to be too willing to come around those boulders, perhaps because they do suspect that a tank destroyer is lining up that particular corridor. So the C50M and myself move up to occupy the close side of this rock island, and holy crap, that was close. If I had been half a second later, I would have eaten probably about 1100 damage and gotten some module damage because, wow, this is the Russian test server. They're probably going to be firing hesh out of that 183mm gun on that FV tank destroyer. So right now I occupy this boulder and begin to side scrape against arguably one of the best side scraping tanks in the game, the VK4502B. He bounces off the side plate of the tank, and I manage to connect a shot with this 14 centimeter gun on his commander's cupola. It looks like he put in a good shell into the angled cheek armor, which would have been more flush to his gun. Don't work harder than you have to in a slow, heavy tank. Take the shot that presents itself. Find a good shot into the side of the turret of that VK. Come around to help support our E50M. And I see it's a Type 5. And it looks like the gun didn't reload in time, otherwise I would have been able to pick up that VK. But it bounces off the lower plate. Take a hit to the gun, and I repair that. That's going to be so consequential later. Artillery takes a swing. I think he gets some splash damage in, but I come up to this boulder. I know what's coming, and I prepare to engage. I put that one slightly high, and it misses his commander's cupola. I angle out a little bit. He's aiming for the side cheek of the armor. I know he's going to be aiming for it, so I angled that and baited him to shoot it. So now take the time, aim it, put one square into the Type 5, pick up the kill. Well, square into his commander's cupola. Now right here, looks like the friendly FV's shell connects with the ruined hull of our 268. My engine has been compromised, and I really, really, really wish I had saved that repair kit, because this vehicle was slow before the engine got knocked out. I'm gonna have to spend the rest of the match with this thing that can barely go 6 kilometers per hour going backwards, and I doubt it could do much better going forwards. So we're in luck. I don't have to push my luck with that VK with my compromised engine. The friendly tank destroyer is coming up in support, so I now decide to cover the other approach so the friendly TD can do his magic. So I go around here where that enemy TD met his end. And oh, looks like we're getting to 7 kilometers per hour. I stand corrected. 1 kilometer per hour difference. And that enemy VK doesn't last very long at all. And right now, this is when I make the honest recommendation that you bring the small repair kit and invest and get in the large repair kit and run both on the same tank. I think it's possible. I haven't actually tested this. Let me know in the comments if you can or cannot. I make this recommendation because there are situations where you'll need to bring a particular module online faster. Like you just saw earlier in this particular replay, I needed to bring the gun back online to 100% to be able to deal with those two very hardened targets in the form of that VK and that Type 5, where the only real shots I could actually manage to penetrate from the front were against their cupolas. And not having that extra repair kit right now, it's hurting. This slow speed going uphill. Ugh. Please, please, this makes a T95 feel fast. Don't do this to yourself. Invest in that second repair kit. Well, I should say, if you can get 2 repair kits, you get that small repair kit and the large repair kit. I don't think you can run 2 of the exact same consumables on any given tank. So spare yourself this pain and do that, because I might have been able to get another shot off. I don't know where the artillery is at this point, so the best I can hope for with this damage engine is literally to get up to this hill and hope that I can get one shot off on him, And I hope that this whole, I think 2 minutes of slow tank, damaged engine not only convinces you that with the Tier 9 and Tier 10 Japanese heavies that you should be looking at running both the large and small repair kits simultaneously, but you should also think about driver skills, which boost terrain resistances and their general cross-country handling. So now we find ourselves on a defensive battle on, I believe this is Karelia. Yes, it looks like Karelia. So right at the start of the match, I'm already factoring in the slow speed of the Type 4, and I'm pondering whether I should turn this into a somewhat static bunker on this northern approach to our base. And I begin to head down into a position that is, well, not necessarily artillery safe, but it does reduce the number of avenues that artillery can shoot at me, while still allowing this particular vehicle to put in shots to help in the front line. And this particular battle, it looks like our team does not want to do the easy option and slowly grind the enemy into submission. They're choosing to sally out to meet them in battle, which, given the fact that there is artillery on the enemy team, is not a unsound decision to make. But given that we have slow heavy tanks and slow tank destroyers, I would be hesitant to go too far from the base just in case we wear ourselves too thin and leave our center out and completely open to attack. That's called foreshadowing, by the way. Giant sign with foreshadowing written on it. Take note, please. So I'm thus far sticking to my bunker plan, and so far, nothing unusual, nothing too concerning other than that well, both teams are 2 tanks down at this point in the proceedings. But I'm starting to look around, and for some reason, I'm getting this uneasiness about this match right at the beginning. And I'm looking at the fact that we have such an aggressive stance, and there are 3 artillery on each team. I'm beginning to wonder if my teammates are artillery conscious, which is so important in a battle that you need only survive and defend the cap long enough, well, 10 minutes long enough, that the enemy will just lose if they can't manage to kill everyone or capture the base. And that was one of the underpinning reasons why I decided to go with the bunker plan. But I can see that perhaps this puts me in a bad position to support the front lines. There's a lot of boulders here. I'd completely forgotten about how many boulders there were on that lower approach. But that being said, due to the low top speed of this vehicle, I'm hesitant to go very far from the base because I am fully anticipating at this point to have a medium blitz. That sounds kind of weird, having a blitz of one Bat Chatillon 25-ton, but it is a Bat Chat. The autoloader on that thing, yeah, you can call it a blitz. But I'm still hesitant, even with the destruction of that Echo 4, to advance any farther than this towards the front lines, because 22 kilometers an hour going downhill with a brisk tailwind, it's going to take about 2 minutes to return to base if they decide to start capping, if I were to go up there. And that, even if this is an assault map, it's cutting it a little close, considering that there's Only 3 friendly tank destroyers? I don't know. Let me know if what you'd do in this situation in the comments. I'd love to know. But at this point, I just saw the bat chat appear on the radar, so I decide that that particular weakness in our defense needs to be addressed, and I begin moving up there at a very slow speed, and I'm trying to make use of these boulders because, one, there's artillery, and two, there is an unspotted FVTD that has been racking up the kills. I don't know if he's on that hill along the 1-2 line, or perhaps he's tucked away up on the assaulting hill opposite to the cap. I screw up a shot on the bat chat. I might have been able to pick up the kill, and I definitely would not have done this if I'd done that. I begin moving around here, the boulder, and I should not do this. I should know better. Every time I do something like this in like my IS-3 or perhaps the Tiger 2 or the 75, I pay for it just like that. There goes almost all of my remaining health. Oh, there we go. Don't do that, guys. Don't play reactionary. It will get you killed. Just like in my Type 4 compilation, First Impressions, the Type 4 and the Type 5, they really punish reactionary styles of play. You have to plan it out, and you have to be patient. So now we find ourselves on Arctic, and given that most of the team lists, both of them, are comprised of medium tanks, I don't fancy my chances up in the north, and also factoring in my position at the spawn, decide to move south and support the few heavy tanks that we have, and we begin our slow trudge. Is it my imagination, or is this actually going a tad bit slower than comparable terrain? I really wish I'd gone with off-road driving on this driver. Oh well, hindsight. You now have the benefit of my mistake in picking crew skills. So for initial deployment, I'm pondering the usual heavy tank corner here on Arctic. And I think this was a bit of a misread here. We're covered by what appears to be an IS-7, an IS-4, and now a T-110E5 to join the fray on the corner. I think perhaps I should have gone to the lower edge down there. But that is with the benefit of hindsight and knowing that right here, I spent some time looking for some shots and just can't get any of them to connect. And I don't think it was the T-110 bumping me, causing them to miss. And was that artillery just now? Oh, I love the super heavy Spall liner on this. It makes that auto-loading bat chat artillery have to really waste their magazines. At least 2 of them to take this thing out unless they landed on the engine deck. Here again, we searching for a shot. Trying there, no luck. Trying again on the E75. And nope, was gonna penetrate that, but he can't penetrate it on return. Our T-110E5 is going down to the lower level. It looks like our ally just bit the big one, by evidenced by that large smoking wreck down there. So I slowly start making my way over there. I spot what looks like the enemy AMX-50B. I must admit, I had this weird idea at the beginning to just drop down straight on him from that cliffside, but I thought better of it. It would have exposed not only the side of my tank, but the rear of it to enemy fire around the corner, which would have ended that attempt rather sillily. Again, I don't think I brought a repair kit this match, so it left me tracked out there longer than I would have liked. The doesn't look like the AMX was able to finish it though, so maybe he was reloading, and our T110E5 manages to finish the deal with him. Right now, we're looking at the flow of the battle, so instead of poking that hill, we come around this cape in the river and decide to push it here. And it looks like the enemy T-62A decided to drown himself, probably on accident, probably trying to get around the corner here without exposing his tank. Not certain it was worth it. Looks like that's a Death Star and an E100. And we can see right now that we don't stand a chance here. And because of the gun, it looks like that was a APCR shell from that 128mm gun on the E100. So my final impressions of the Type 4, I like it. I'd have to spend a little bit more time honing my tactics with it on specific game modes and certain maps, but overall I like it. Maybe not as much as the Type 5, but I think that comes down to the lower speed of the vehicle more so than anything else. It really limits what you can do and how fast you can get in and out of trouble. It really also slows down the pace of the battle and forces you to start thinking much longer in time than the Type 5 or many of the other tanks in the game for that matter. And this tank really punishes you for changing your mind in the middle of a battle. You really need to study the team lists, develop your plan for what you expect of the vehicles to do, and engage in the direction that best suits your vehicle, and not to over advance or to under advance for that matter, because in both cases, either you will get destroyed in the former case or the latter case, you'll be outpaced for the entire battle and never able to catch up and do any damage. This vehicle will shine in my book at Tier 9 as one of the better side scrapers in terms of the heavy tanks, and it certainly has a warm place in my garage when I finally get around to it, because it has that very nice punishing 140mm gun, and it doesn't seem to have any of the quirks that you might come to expect from it. And equipping a vertical stabilizer allows you to really tap the potential of the gun on this particular tank and start to realize some mobility that you might otherwise have to sacrifice, having to completely stop the tank, completely stop the turret when aiming at a particular vehicle, thus removing the total amount of time that you spend in motion and getting towards either your objective or into other enemy vehicles. That being said, you really should try to advance cautiously. Not that you can realize your inner speed demon in this vehicle, even going downhill with a mythical typhoon pushing you. I'd like to thank you for having stuck with me for this very long first impressions video of the Type 4. I had originally planned to do a similar video for the OE-120, or better known in game as the Tier 8 O-Hull heavy tank. But seeing as I cannot connect to the test server right now, I can't collect the remaining footage I need to complete such a long video. So perhaps instead I might do a single replay from the test server featuring this vehicle, but we'll see if I can connect to the test server in the next day or two. In the meantime, I should have some more World of Warships content ready for you all. I believe that this next one may be a carrier replay, so please look forward to that. If you like what you have seen on the channel to this point, or are interested in similar content, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you. Good day.